if this works. So. Well, I'm hoping it works because I'm not checking again. Yuma, come back here. Oh, I'm sorry. Girl, why do you hate me? Probably because I've been bopping you around all day. I'll probably put her back soon. But I had to start with the snake. Yuma. I'm sorry, Yuma. Anyways, my goodness. Now my pants are all falling down. That happens. Sorry, I decided to redo this because I did it with my desktop camera and it looked really shitty, like my last video did. And also, I rewatched that video and I was like, oh, I forgot about those things. I should talk about that. So yeah, the last video I did was like 5 months ago. And it's been a freaking hot minute. That was like right after I had injured my back. And I realized that oh, that's probably why I didn't lose weight for a while, is because I injured my back. But yeah, I've mostly recovered, but it's always an ongoing process. And I didn't really have a strict plan for anything, but essentially what happened was that after that, I kind of recovered and we started doing storage more regularly, and I was eating a bunch of fast food. Not really eating a bunch of, but I was eating a lot of fast food right after swords, essentially. And so I was eating poorly, but I was doing so much activity that I ended up losing a little bit of weight. And just about a month ago, I finally kind of fixed up my diet, and I'll explain what I did at that time. But I had kind of been slowly modifying my diet, but I had actually decided to go back to specifically calorie counting at the beginning of the month because I wanted to really lock things down. Are you just gonna leave again? Okay, I'm gonna take her back. I feel like she probably pooped in here, and I'm just gonna find it later. It smells kind of funny. Oh, actually, I think I know what that smell is. Never mind. Anyways, so yeah, I didn't realize when I took my last video, I tried to look back and was looking at what I had tracked for my weight, but I usually only track my weights on any apps when I hit a new low weight, just so that it's consistently a downtrend line, so that it doesn't look like I'm doing this the whole time. But yeah, I've been doing things a little bit differently regarding that lately too, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But essentially, I didn't realize that I said I was about 230 at that time. I was probably slightly on the underside of 230, but essentially, I just kind of casually, over the course of just doing exercise and eating kind of normally. I was not eating great, but I was active enough that I was offsetting. I wasn't doing any sort of binge or anything. I was just getting some fast food in the evening because I just didn't really have any meal plans kind of set out for myself. So I ended up getting to around 225, 224 around the a little before the holidays, and kind of when I came back from my parents, after my dad had he had a health scare. Well, actually, he apparently had a heart attack sometime in the last 3 years, and so I went to go essentially have Christmas with them because they weren't able to come here because they literally figured that out the day before Christmas. I don't really care about Christmas, so don't weep for me. But yeah, I went over there to visit them and talk to them and be like, hey, maybe you should lose some fucking weight. You're 330 pounds. But yeah, so I came back and I was partly because I had wanted to already, and I had already been very, very, very slowly losing a little bit of weight. I was I want to crack down and get myself back on calorie counting, also just to show my parents it's possible for someone in our family to lose weight, even though they've seen that before. So I started counting my calories, and I plateaued really hard around 221 because I think essentially what happened is I came back from my parents, and the day I came back was the last day of my period, and it was 224, and then I peed all day. And the next day I weighed 221.6, and I was well, today's my starting day, so that's my starting weight. And I wrote that down, and just then my cycle started over, and it was just everything started fluctuating forever. So I didn't hit a new low weight for 4 weeks. But now I have kind of broken that 220 cap, and I've gotten down. I'm around 219 right now. So yeah, I've lost only like 11 pounds over like 5 months. So it's not very much, but I also didn't really start getting aggressive with it till this month. And I also have been like kind of scaling up my activity after that back injury. And I've kind of found ways to deal with the back issues now, as far as like different ways I can move, and like kind of knowing when I have to sit back and take a rest, what I should do. And part of that has also been I've had to kind of cut back on my comics drawing, just because my setup I have right now is not fantastic for my back. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do about that, but I'm like, I'm okay focusing on some other things right now. Honestly, I just think that it's gonna be too much just to like try to change everything with my diet, and also like keep on top of every single thing I do right now. So I'm fine with focusing on losing weight right now. So yeah, I've been a little bit more active just in general. Now that my back is a little bit better, and I kind of understand how I can tackle things throughout the day to do as much as I want to without crippling myself for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or several months. So yeah, I pretty much got that taken care of. I think I've got that in the bag for the immediate future, as long as I don't do anything stupid. And yeah, so I've been eating very differently lately. I was going to talk about the changes I made to my diet, and essentially, aside from calorie counting, which I've done before, I made one major change where I essentially was like, over the past few months, I was like, I'm not really eating like any vegetables or fruits, and I think I was like really stingy at the grocery store, and I just wouldn't buy the fruits and vegetables I like to eat, because I was like, they don't stay good, they're not ripe, and whatever. So I finally got over that, and I was like, dude, this is much cheaper than eating fast food. Just deal with the fact that it's not as cheap as ham and beans, pork and beans. So I kind of got over that, and I found a way I like to prepare my vegetables, where essentially I roast the ever-loving shit out of them. I really like roasted vegetables. I really hate raw vegetables, except for like the occasional bland salad. I like some spinach salads with vinaigrettes, but mostly like just romaine and iceberg with ranch is literally, I'm a basic bitch when it comes to salads. So I was like, okay, I do that, but also I'm going to force myself to, not just force myself to eat the vegetables and fruits, but I'm going to make myself eat them before I eat the other carb and protein heavy parts of my meals. And that really changed my attitude towards like fruits and vegetables, where I'm like, no, these are a necessary part. Like, these are not the afterthought to my meals that I keep having them as. These are the things I tackle first, and I make sure I get like 5 servings throughout the day. Serving being, I'm doing like 100-gram servings, so it's probably more than I actually need, but I'm like, it's got a lot of fiber, it's got a lot of water, it really increases my satiety before I even start the main part of my meal, so I don't get this like starving feeling. So I did that, and I started, instead of eating like 3 meals a day, I essentially have myself eat more of those little snacky foods throughout the day, where I'm like, it's not really snacks, it's like I eat before I'm even hungry, I like eat some vegetables, eat some of my fruits. I'm trying to take my fruits with me when I like go off to go to Swords, because I'll leave the house for like 5 or 6 hours, go to the coffee shop, and then go to Swords. And I try to just like stuff myself with fruits, so I'm not starving when I'm done with Swords, although that's mixed, but I definitely haven't had to eat as much when I get back to like feel any level of satisfaction. I also noticed that I think a lot of things that I mistake for hunger are actually like acid reflux, which apparently I talk to people and they don't get it, but not when I'm feeling like that absolute starving hunger. Like, I know I'm hungry then, but then sometimes I'll eat and I'm like, feel a little burn right here. I'm like, oh, I'm still hungry. But then I like recently found some Tums that I can actually stand to take, because they're not the chalky things. They're like chewy little Starburst pieces. They don't get like all stuck in my teeth. Ugh, I hate Tums. But I started taking those, and whenever I felt that, and I was like, oh, I think that was just acid reflux. Okay, I'm fine. So I was like, oh, have I been eating just because I'm like actually sick to my stomach? So I'm going to talk to the doctor about that next Friday. I have an appointment, but yeah, hopefully I can figure out what the hell is up with that, because I was like, I'm kind of like throwing up a little bit in the back of my mouth sometimes, and like I can't swallow my medicine at night because it won't go down into my stomach. And I was like, I'm not even in, like, not even when I'm eating like that much. I'll eat like 300 calories worth of food and then be like, it's not going down all the way. So I'm trying to fix that. Um, so yeah, that's basically the changes I made with my diet, where like I'm kind of doing like the opposite of intermittent fasting, which um, I think intermittent fasting, I was like kind of low key always did that anyways, just because like I would only eat, essentially 2 meals a day, and people are like, oh, you give yourself an 8 hour eating window. I'm like, you could eat a lot in 8 hours. So it's like, especially if you have this weird acid reflux hunger, you just keep eating until eventually you're like, oh, I'm physically too full. So yeah, I've changed that, where I'm just like try to snack on fruits and vegetables, and like just meats by themselves. So especially I've been eating like ham and some like kind of lean chicken. I'm not doing super lean meats though, because I don't really get a lot of fat elsewhere in my diet. So like I'm keeping the fats in my meats essentially. I don't eat stuff like bacon or anything like that that's like mostly fat or anything. But things like ham, I've been eating turkey. Like I like turkey sausage, which is like calorie wise, not gram wise, it's about half and half protein and fats, which is a pretty good split for like what I'm looking for. Because like I said, I don't really get the fats anywhere else. So yeah, I've been doing that. It's been working out for me. I literally, it depends kind of on what I'm doing and where I am in my cycle, but most of the time I'm not really hungry at all, which is fine. And sometimes like there was even time last week where like my appetite took a nosedive and I had trouble even reaching like 1,500 calories, even if I was doing like substantial amount of activity that day. So yeah, it really depends. I don't know if I'll change anything based on that, but essentially I'm just trying to originally I was aiming for like a 750 calorie deficit, but my satiety has been so good that I'm just like, I'm aiming for around 1,000. And I mean, obviously, if I go over that a little bit, like 200 to 300 calories, I'm still in like a 750 calorie deficit. So it's like, whatever. So, and that's been working out well with me. I haven't really seen the results I want to see, and I think it's because I just happened to weigh in at a really low weight when I first started, so I hit like a plateau for literally, like my weight did not get below that for like 3 weeks. And now it's finally like starting to come down, and I've actually been able to like, I have enough data now where I can like go into Google Sheets and do like a 3 day moving average, and you can actually see the trend line going down. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, even like I'm hoping it kind of steadies out to be at least a pound a week, because if it's less than a pound a week, then I'm kind of worried with like what's going on with my calorie deficit. And I want to kind of talk to a dietitian, even if they just end up saying like, yeah, you're doing everything fine, like just to have that input, but also to encourage my parents to go to a dietitian because they really need to. So yeah, that's been going well. Like I'm frustrated that the weight is coming off slowly now that I've gotten more aggressive with it, but it's still like I can't be that mad because it's coming off. And if it was even just a pound a week, like that was my original intent, was to lose like 4 pounds a month. So I mean, I can't really be mad about that, because I actually did a DEXA scan to look at like, to kind of estimate where I think my ending weight would be a good place to be, and also like to see if I had enough muscle that was worth like pumping, like maintaining the high level of protein I'm trying to have. I'm only like, it's not ridiculous, but I'm trying to keep like 30% of my calories from protein, which is it depends on who you talk to, is either just enough or a high level of protein. But I was like, did the DEXA scan, and I was like, yeah, I have about 117 pounds of lean body mass, and if I had like 20 to 25% fat, which is like normal, I guess. Like I think obese is above like 31%. Right now I'm like at 40 something percent. But I only have to lose about 60 pounds worth of fat. So if I can maintain the muscle, I only really have to lose about 60 pounds. But I'm going to do another scan in 6 months to see if my muscle is trending down or not. I'm doing enough activity and I'm eating enough protein where I'm hoping it doesn't, but it's really hard to control. But if I only lose about 20 pounds of fat within that time period, I don't think I should have enough decreases in the amount of physical activity I do, because when you lose weight, you're technically doing less physical activity at the same level of like, you are burning less calories and having less hypertrophy in your muscles because you're carrying less weight, right? If you're doing the same amount of activity. So I was like, well, if I lose like 20 pounds, after that, I want to start weightlifting again. I don't want to do it right now because of my back, but if I can get 20 pounds up, recovery will be easier so I can go back to doing weightlifting. I can at least start doing bench pressing now, but I could at least do overhead pressing. And I wanted squats and deadlifts are the things that are hardest on my back, but I want to try to do that if I can get. I'm saying when I get under 200, because I am going to be under 200, bitch. But yeah. So that's kind of my plans. Yeah, like I said, it's a bit frustrating that it's not coming off faster. And I'm not talking about like the 4 months where I didn't have like a concerted plan, because a lot of that was just like recovery and adjusting to going back to like actual real sword practices that we've been doing, versus just like the kind of casual thing we were doing early in the pandemic. But yeah, it's a bit disappointing that it's coming off slowly, but hopefully it will be more consistent now that things have kind of leveled out and my diet has gotten more consistent and my activity has gotten more consistent. But like, yeah, that was the kind of the update I wanted to do as far as actual weight and body condition and everything goes. But I did also wanted to say something just as far as I have been watching a lot of like, mostly just, it's stuff for background noise, but it's also like motivational, just to keep my mind off of like obsessing too much about the process that I'm in. Like, I don't get hungry or anything. I'm just like, I have an obsessive mind like that. I'll just think about it all day. But I just like will have on the background some like people talking about their weight loss and things like that, but also videos talking about certain people on the internet that have very publicly failed to lose weight and have in fact gained weight over their weight loss journeys. But I thought it was really interesting. There was this really good video by Kiana Doherty. I don't know if that's actually how you pronounce her name. That's how I'm assuming it is, because it's like Irish. But it's Kiana, Kiana Doherty, Docherty. She's American, so she might say like Docherty or something, but in Irish it would be like Doherty. So she had a really good video that was talking about like having, like, motivation comes from like having reasons why. So like if you want to make a substantial change in your life, you have to want to actually not just have the result, but also make the changes needed, and you have to like have reasons to move in that direction more than saying the same. And in this particular case, she was talking about like the health benefits that person would have versus like, in her mind, the pro of like continuing to eat fast food 3 times a day, which for me is like insane. But yeah, it was really interesting, and really like the framework that she presented. It wasn't her framework; it was based on a psychologist she was reading. But the framework was really interesting, and essentially this kind of idea of like immediate pros and immediate cons to kind of get your emotional brain on the level with your logical brain. And it was funny because I watched that and I was like, yeah, like I feel like I haven't been having much trouble because I have so many good reasons why, and I really don't care that much about eating these really unhealthy foods. Like I don't want to eat 3 fast food meals a day. That would be gross. And I don't even I was like, I don't even like sugar that much. Like it's, sometimes you'll have like a craving, but I've never wanted to go and like pound down a whole cake. So it's like, it's a very momentary craving, and I'm like, sometimes even like I'll make a coffee that has a little bit of chocolate in it. I'll have like 2 sips, and I was like, okay, well, that's all I really wanted, and I'll put it in the fridge for the next day. But yeah, but it was interesting to me because I was looking at these people and I was like, they really, like, I think part of it is like a mental immaturity where they really have trouble like wrangling the emotional part of their brains, and they have very the emotional part of their brain has a very is very present focus, and it's not really able to comprehend like literally things that happen a minute after when you feel terrible about eating what you just ate. But it's like, I was thinking about these people and I was like, they don't really have a life outside of food. They're like, at all. Like, sometimes they kind of like talk about these things, but really you can tell the only thing they ever focus on in their life is food. And I was like, that's really sad. Because like all my reasons have to do, I mean, there's some things that like wouldn't really change based on my activities, like be better, not necessarily to fit into nicer clothes, because I'm probably going to wear jeans and t-shirts my whole life, but like to have an easier time finding those clothes, to maybe have cheaper clothes. Like those things are things most like fat people can relate to no matter what. But also just like be nice to not be carrying around all that extra weight all the freaking time. It'd be nice to not have the back pain. But for me, it's like, oh yeah, I could do much better in fencing. I wouldn't need so much recovery time after working out. It would be much easier for me to do chores around the house. I wouldn't be so worried about taking care of my animals. Like, I wouldn't be as worried, like, I'm not instigating injury by carrying these weight and preventing myself from doing all these things I want to do. And it's like, I can keep up, like, most of my friends nowadays are not, I'm not going to say, like, insanely fit, but they're mostly fit focused, and a lot of them, aside from doing fencing, they do things outside of fencing, too. And I'm like, yeah, I really want to keep up with my friends, and I feel really bad when I feel like I would want to do something with them, but I really don't want them to be, like, waiting on me to catch up, essentially. Like, I have this one hike that I really like to go on, but I've only ever gone on it alone because I'm like, it's a lot of uphill, and I really, like, I grew up in Houston. I didn't see a hill till I was, like, 20. So, I was like, I'm really, really bad with uphills. I have asthma and I'm fat. So, it's like, I don't want to make them wait on me every time I go up a flight, 10 feet and need to stop to catch my breath. So it's like, I don't want to do that. But yeah, it's like all these things that I feel like at least it wouldn't, like, my asthma is still going to be there if I lose weight, but at least I can, like, chug my inhaler and say, like, your girl's got asthma, not just your girl ate bad and now can't catch up. So I just feel like it's a worse excuse than the thing I was born with. So yeah, I just wanted, like, I have all these reasons why, and just like these people I see, especially things like the super morbidly obese people, especially ones that have been obese for a really long time, like literally their whole life has revolved around food, and not like in like a family eating way, just like literally a stuffing themselves with fast food kind of way. And when they talk about food, they're talking about things like, they're like, man, I'm going to miss Cheetos, I'm going to miss this, I'm going to miss that. It's like, what about chips? And I was like, I don't know the last time I had a fucking chip, and I don't miss them. And it's like, it's weird, because it's like, I really, honestly, don't relate to these people at all. I can't relate to these people, and I guess I'm glad I'm not, because I think having all these reasons why is, one, the reason I'm not 300 pounds. But two, it's just like, it's so much easier for me to get in that mindset of like, I've got so many reasons not to eat this cupcake right now. Like, you can look at one piece of food that you, like, sometimes it's like forcing myself to eat foods where I'm like, oh, I've got to eat more protein or my muscles are going to atrophy and I won't be able to beat people up. Ugh. Then it's also like, just don't eat the piece of cake. Like, you can have it later when you're skinny and you're working out more to make up for it or something like that. And so it's like, yeah, it makes me feel so bad, especially like if you watch 600 Pound Life. You like the untold story of that is honestly like, I feel like a lot of the people that regain weight, probably they don't even realize it, but they lose all this weight and then it's like their life hasn't really changed, because their life seems to have changed for the worse because they took away the one thing that they've done with their life, which is eat food. And so I'm like, that fucking sucks. Sucks for you. We should have had like hobbies. So it's very strange to me. So yeah, like, I'm glad I have some good reasons. Yeah. By the way, how do you like, I didn't like change the angle to make myself look better. I just I wanted to use my phone instead of my computer, and the tripod I have doesn't go any lower than this when I'm sitting on my table. So yeah. So we'll see how the next. I guess I'll update again in about a month. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. I've been thinking about a lot of things, and honestly, because my friends are fit, and I don't want to just like. Honestly, the real reason is probably because I don't want to incessantly bother them. I'm already a naturally annoying person, so I don't need any help being like I'm on a diet and like literally every 20 seconds I'm being like, by the way, I ate a lot of cauliflower today. So, um, yeah, I was like preventing basically like trying to be respectful to my friends and that they probably don't want to hear my bullshit 24/7. I do have one friend I've been just kind of like Facebook messengering her every once in a while because she and her boyfriend are going on a bulk. So it's kind of hilarious because she's like, I can't eat any more rice and chicken, and I'm like, but you have to, just like I have to eat this cauliflower. So it's like we're on opposite journeys, but you still have kind of the same bitching that you have to do. But yeah, that's my update. Hopefully, I mean numbers are not a huge thing, but I would like to lose at least another 4 pounds. So by the end of February, but we'll see. I'm at like two. Like the lowest weight I had one time I weighed in, I think I was just dehydrated because I had been doing shit all day and I just weighed myself and I was like 218.5, but realistically I weighed myself this morning, I was 219.4. That's probably the non-dehydrated, non-super empty version of Aaron, so I'm getting below 220. Hopefully I can say good, like I think my goal for February is to say goodbye to that number entirely and just never see it on my scale again unless I'm like wearing a backpack. So my clothes only weigh like 2 pounds, and I shouldn't have more than like 3 pounds of food and water in my body. So we'll see. You know, it always happens, but that's my update.